we live? I think
Yay,
we
we're
are.
live.
Yay.
Hello, hello.
Hello to everyone who is watching us and not the
Yay.
Vatican.
Stationery is important too.
Yep. Oh my. All right. Hi, friends. Hello. Anyhow, so how you been doing? So it's been what, three weeks? A month since we've done this?
Oh, yeah. It's yeah, it has been a month, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. Because we were thinking of getting together, what, a week before, but then my life happened, um, and Chicago happened.
Yes.
So we're doing it now.
The Chicago Pen Show.
Yeah.
Lots of things happened.
Yeah. So I think it's a good thing we can have a recap today. What's going on and how's everyone been doing? And if they went to Chicago, please let us know because we didn't.
Yeah.
Hey, I see what, three people. Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yay.
Yeah, so I was a little worried, with the Pope and excitement. And also, I don't know if you follow. So I'm weird that way. I am not a religious person, nor am I Catholic. But there is like this fun kind of part about that super old, centuries old tradition. And I was in Rome. I was doing my undergrad when the previous pope, who just passed,
Hmm.
was elected. And I remember coming out of my evening class and I had like no idea. And I think they took them quite a few days, like much, much more than it took now, right?
Yeah.
And I was like walking out of the class and I was just like, oh, for sure it's going to be like, we're in for a long one. And sure enough, at like 6 p.m., I think it was, this like nun rushes past me and like almost knocks me off of my feet. And I was like, oh, I guess it's happening. So this is why I'm kind of fascinated by that. But it's just fascinating. It's this weird way of still doing things and like still being like sealed in the room, for like this centuries old tradition that they're like afraid that someone's going to interfere with them voting. Just fascinating.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's a world event that you'll always kind of attach to where you were, right? Like
Mhm.
there are certain world events throughout my life as well where I'm like, when I think of that world event, I know exactly where I was at the time, what I was doing at the time, and it's always
Mhm.
connected in my head, right? So this is one of those things where it's like it's such a big event that everyone is keeping an eye on, that we know for sure where we were, what happened.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think the only other event I'm thinking, well, the Queen,
Yes.
um, that was another one for me personal, as like as a kid, I guess at that point, was Michael Jackson dying. I remember where I was and it was just like, because it's such a big event in the music world.
Yeah.
So yeah, no,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
It's just interesting. I like living through these things and
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. William's right. In touch with an old past, it's like a tradition, right? It's something that is so ingrained in the history of the world
yeah.
that like all over the world people know what this is, right? And they're keeping an eye on what's going to happen. And so yeah, it's
I think the weird thing that I was thinking about it the other day, and I was like, because there was something that someone told me a while ago that because I'm from Europe and we do tend to have these really heavy like old traditions. There's like I don't really see a purpose anymore, right? And I had this conversation with someone who is no longer here as well, but at the time she was also pretty old. And we had this chat, and she's like, well, I find them charming. The traditions are charming, but they're not necessary. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, I agree, but there is a necessity. If you think about it, right? Those rituals,
Mm-hmm.
they kind of keep you together in a way. Like they're
Mm-hmm.
both drive you mad if you live in them, but there is something like a sequence of things when
Yeah.
you do. It can be anything. It can be sports, for people in the
Yeah.
morning, running in the morning. And these things kind of keep you kind of, I don't know, just energized in a way, or like organized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and grounded too, right?
Yeah.
Like we're sort of grounded in traditions, and it's like fairy tales and stories and myths. Like, why do we sort of retell these stories? Why do we try and modernize it, but also try and keep, the history of it ingrained? Because it's grounding for us, right? It sort of brings us back to, like, yeah, it might be a little silly, or like, why do we do it this way versus like something that makes more sense in our time? But it's like, it's keeping that history alive, right? So
Hmm.
yeah, there is some sort of essential aspect of it. And I don't know if you saw Conclave recently
I
that came
did. I
out.
rewatched it.
Yeah, oh, did you? Yeah, I was like, it's so timely, right? You kind of have to, yeah.
It's a
So
good movie. It's a good
it
movie. I
is
mean,
good.
they had good actors in it too.
Yes.
I don't know how close it is. That's the thing. It's such a secretive, still is, right? Procedure that they had to probably guess a few things, I would imagine. So,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
but it's good. It's kind of that kind of philosophy, and like, and yeah, in the views. I mean, that's the beauty of, those old spaces. It's just fascinating and beautiful.
Yeah.
And tradition is why we like our fountain pens.
Yes, that's exactly right. And that's why we like vintage things,
Yeah.
and things that are antique and things like that, because they all have a story to them. They all have a history to them. And it's kind of, capturing that and keeping it alive in some way, right? Like even with fountain pens, we can modernize them. Not everyone needs to use a vintage fountain pen, but
Right.
it's the process, it's the tool that we get down to, and using that sort of keeps that, history alive. And
Yeah.
it's kind of nice.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
and I think they just like design, like we improved on something that has existed for a very, very long time, right? And that's the fun of it. But yeah, no, I agree with you. Not everyone should use a vintage pen. Put it
Don't just
that
go out
way.
and get vintage pen.
I feel like you might get turned off if you're like just starting out, because you were there when I had my friend on. Just like, what pen should I send her?
Yeah.
Maybe the vintage. You might get turned off, of fountain pens if like your second, third pen is vintage and you break it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Or you're trying to fill it, right? And it's like some like, what do I do with a sack or whatever? It's at least we've sort of improved on, in some ways, filling systems,
Mhm.
and the use of different types of inks and things like that. So, and custom nib grinds, and, adding a little bit of flair to a really old tool. So, yeah.
I did have a funny moment with my mom who she likes saying that she started using fountain pens and then graduated to rollerball, like, throughout the like school, like beginning of the school to the end, like she can track that evolution of the writing
Wow.
instrument in her classroom.
Wow.
And so I gave her one of my modern fountain pens, and it was actually a handmade one.
Oh,
I do not like wooden pens
yeah.
much. It just, I maybe I haven't found the one, but there's something about them that I like it as a desk more than I like it as a pen.
I like it as a desk more than a pen. I
So it's
love
just,
that.
but she likes those. And I
Yeah.
was like, here you go. And she hasn't really tried a modern fountain pen, since like forever ago, since like using her old pens that I think she threw out at this point.
Mhm.
But the first thing she asked when she used it, she's like, why is it not flexing?
Oh.
I know. She wanted like the full on experience because that's what she was used to. And that's
Yeah.
what we don't have, for the most part anymore.
Yeah. Please don't flex all your pens.
Well, you can do
Right?
it once.
Yeah, you can do it once. Yeah, I know. And it's like, yeah, in some ways, I guess because we've modernized this tool, there are newer rules or like ways of using it that we have to keep in mind as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean, that's the
okay.
thing. Sometimes you lose, but you gain. And I would feel much safer traveling with a modern pen, even a piston fill, than the vintage one.
Same. Yeah.
So I know we had Karina last time pop in, but I think she posted about, was it that she travels and even writes with the piston fills on the plane, but all of
Yeah.
her pens are, modern. So
Yes. And she was at the Chicago Pen Show. She was at the Chicago Pen Show over the weekend, and I think she posted an IG story of something that happened to one of her pens. So I'm
ooh.
curious. I'm curious to see. And I think she was writing with it. So
Mhm.
I'm curious to hear how that went.
Yeah, if
'Cause
we
I'm
see
sure.
her pop in
Yeah.
today or some other time, we'll ask.
Uh,
All right. Oh my God. I think I had like little questions out somewhere for you, but it was just art,
mm.
probably art related.
Yeah, probably.
And I'm a hot mess. I'm working on my new collection and I'm also like gathering stuff. And like, I have this wild oyster plate out
Oh.
with like seals.
Oh, cute. Oh, nice.
And one of them is styled like a hand. And it's
Yeah.
just so funny. It's just
Uh,
so funny.
that's awesome. I love it.
So I have that. I have my pens that I was hanging out with for the last couple of days. I
Yeah.
have this thing. So I'm working on my Mont Blanc, very, small collection of Mont Blanc pen video.
Mhm.
And so, of course, now I have to like take all the pens.
Yeah. Yeah. Once you do like a pen video or an ink video, you got to take them all out.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of nice though because it reminds you of like, getting reacquainted with your pens, getting reacquainted with your stationery tools that you may have gotten because for whatever reason it was beautiful or, and then you use it and then you kind of tuck it away. And then every once in a while you sort of have to remind yourself like you have that, you got it for a reason, and get reacquainted. It's like I do that all the time when I talk about a certain pen to someone for whatever reason. And then I think, oh, I should take out that pen and use it or an ink. And it's like, oh, this would be a great ink for you. And then I think, why have I not used it in a while? Right. So it's a good excuse.
I know. So that's your process too, huh? For when you work on your video?
Where I take everything out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take everything out. It's everywhere. And then after I do the video, I think, you know what? I should actually like ink this stuff up or I should, pick a few that I want to use this month. So
There you go. You're not the only one.
yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Video or not, we all function stick very, very similarly. So
Yeah.
what I took out, two of my Mont Blancs, if someone, I know William wants to see them,
Let's see
but
them. I want to see them.
so one of them, and you'll have to guess which nib I like better, but surprisingly, one of them is this Bordeaux. So they don't no longer make the Bordeaux because apparently they found for some reason same resin, but I guess the formulation is just slightly different because it's the Bordeaux. There is something that makes it just a little bit more, I guess, vulnerable when it comes to
Oh,
breakage.
okay.
Stopped making these in circa 2006, I would want to say
Oh,
something beginning 2000s. But I've gotten this wonderful pen, and it is Legrand 146.
mhm.
I've been looking for this for many years, and I got it some time ago. It's been with me, I think, for over 2 years now.
Wow, it's gorgeous.
It is, but it's fine. I don't do fines. It's a fine that feels like extra fine.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it's finer than you expected, which for Mont Blanc was something I was not. I know they all vary. That's the thing,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
get something, especially when you haven't tested it, and you're like,
Yeah.
so here, that's my thing.
William will buy it. You know
Well,
what? I was thinking the same thing. I was like, you know what? For that pen, I don't care what the nib is.
oh, and the nib is not 14K, it's 18K. So, like this thing,
Mm.
I have theory this was made for France. So, France is usually a dead giveaway for a lot of pens if you see 18K, and it's
Oh.
because for a long time, France in their and just in the law, if you had less than 18K, it was not considered to be gold.
Oh, really?
It was a thing, yeah, that was written. There were like many things like that. France is a very
Yeah.
peculiar, interesting place.
Yeah.
And it
Very
was for a
particular.
long time. Like if you look at Waterman as well, and like other, like I've had vintage French pens. There is no grade written on the nib, but I'm pretty sure it's 14K, but it's just not labeled as
Oh.
such. So I
Mm.
wonder if this interesting take on Legrand was because they had to sell in France and they had to sell it, as gold.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
So,
Yeah.
I bought it as an old new stock in Germany, though. So I will never know. But yeah, no, it's like
Yeah.
only 18K Legrand, and it's not like a special edition. It's that's the mystery, right?
Yeah, yeah, and because it's vintage, it's sometimes hard to, like, get the details to the exact, like, this is why, this is what it is. You kinda have to, like, using other, facts and other,
Yeah,
um
no, and it's like new old stock, but I have all the
yeah,
documentations, and it's like I know no one ever used it,
yeah. Oh,
but
awesome.
why?
Yeah. It's a mystery.
The mystery.
And what's the second pin?
And the second pen is the Bohème, the tiny
Oh,
Bohème.
so cute.
It's cute. And I think this is definitely one of my favorite nibs, modern nibs, I would
Yeah,
say.
yeah, I
It's
like
the fine that is great fine, opposed to the other fine.
that.
Yeah, he says my theory might be right. That's what I thought too.
Ah, interesting.
The only other 18K, I also have 145, I think. But that one was a special, although not limited edition. I don't have it on me here. And that one makes sense why they would have it at 18K, because that's what
Yeah,
you would do.
interesting.
Oh, well, yeah, I think it's a smaller pen. But it is, so the funny part, I don't know how much into Mont Blanc you are, but this part, the grip, is much more comfortable than the 144.
Oh, interesting.
I would suggest just bypassing 144 if you're ever interested in just, if you can find one of these. These are hard to find these days.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you also have to be a little careful. I think they're a little bit more fragile because of the way they're made. But I think if one is careful, which I think Wiz users mostly are, you're going to be fine.
Especially with that kind of pen, I mean, I don't think you're just gonna throw it around.
No, you shouldn't. Please don't.
Yeah.
What have you been playing with? Like any pens that you've been reaching for or
Well,
considering?
I did get 3 pocket pens recently,
Ooh.
and I got them because I had some Atlas credit that I needed to use, and so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get a few fountain pens and share content about it. And so one of them is the Benu Pixie. And
Ooh.
yeah, and so like, obviously I've seen a lot about it. People are sharing it. And so I was curious. And so I wanted it with a broad nib
Mm-hmm.
and looked on Atlas, and they had, I think there were 4 or 5 available. And so I did an IG poll of which one I should get. And the one that won out was this one.
Oh, I think I voted on that one. Yeah.
Yeah, you did. I think it's called Emerald Seas, but it's really, really pretty, right? Like it
It is.
has the glitter going through it and really a deep blue and a teal sort of green.
And it's like semi-translucent on top, right? Or
Yeah,
the green
yeah.
part. Yeah.
And the fun part about it is that you could see the blending sort of going through. So you see a little bit of teal in the blue here, which
Mm-hmm.
is really kind of cool. And yeah, so I've been playing around with that. It's a broad nib. And it is so cute. It
It is.
is the smallest pocket pen ever. Like, this is my Kaweco,
Mm-hmm.
which I've had for a long time. But like comparing those two in
Oh
size,
my God.
right? Look at that. Like, what is smaller than this? A Pixie.
How is it like the pinch section compared to Kaweco?
Oh, you mean like the grip?
Mm-hmm.
So when it's posted,
Ooh. All
right?
right.
And the grip section is actually pretty long.
How is in like the width? Is it? Do you feel like difference in comfort levels when you use one opposed the other?
So the width, this definitely feels wider. And I
Okay.
think it's because the cap is pretty wide, right?
Mm-hmm.
The body itself, I think, is relatively like it's shorter, but it's a little bit wider here
Mm-hmm.
in the body section. Whereas the Kaweco is just, like a straight sort of barrel. The one thing I do, so the thing with the Pixie is surprisingly, it feels comfortable to write with, which,
That's what I
right?
was
Like
wondering.
pocket pens, especially when they're like
Mhm.
cute and tiny and fun, you're kind of like, there's no way I'm going to be writing too long with this pen. Like that's so surprisingly, when I was writing with it, I actually felt like, you know what, this is a balanced writing style or like feeling. And the only little thing I would say about the Pixie is that the cap doesn't like it posts, but it almost feels like it's sort of like it shimmies a little bit. And
Mm.
so, that's the only thing I would sort of say, keep in mind when you're writing with it, because this might sort of just kind of uncap a little bit. To me, it's not a big deal, but it's just so cute. It's just so fun to write with.
So you made a video about that already,
Not
right?
yet, not yet.
Not
I
yet.
will.
All right.
I did stream the unboxing and
Mm.
just kind of talked about it, but I will do a YouTube video about it that's a little bit more in depth. I'm just playing around with it for now.
And I will definitely put your information in the description, so people should subscribe to
Thank
you if they
you.
haven't. And
Yeah.
also give this video a like.
Yeah, does it
I never say
does
that.
it do the thumbs up thing or
I
the
know.
fireworks?
I know. I
It
used to
doesn't.
have this. I think I turned that off.
Yeah, I think you have to do like reactions or something like that where it will.
I was watching. I was like, I think what prompted me to do it. I was watching like some sort of serious news channel or something, and someone had that on, like a congressman or something, had that feature on, like the way I do it, right, with you guys. And I was like, okay, maybe not. Maybe I should turn my thing off, because he's like thumbs up went up, like when he was like, talking about something very serious, and I was like,
Yeah.
no.
Like, is that appropriate? I don't know. That's so funny. So my second pocket pen is the Tom Studio fountain pen.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really curious about Tom Studio. I don't from Tom. And so it posts like this, which actually makes it a long fountain pen, surprisingly, as
Mm-hmm.
well. Like, so it actually has quite a nice feel to it when you're writing. And I got it because I got the nib with it's a titanium flex.
Mm.
And so I've never tried a titanium nib, and I was very curious about it. And I've just started playing around with it. But it's fun. Like it does have a flex to it, not super flex, so I wouldn't push too hard on it, but just enough to sort of make it a little bit more interesting to write with.
Mm.
And then the third pocket pen, I think a lot of people would
Ooh.
recognize is
Yeah.
the Pilot E95S in the burgundy. That's why I was like, your burgundy pen is so pretty because there's something about like that burgundy color, right?
It is. It is.
So that one is in a medium nib. Yeah.
It's a good
I'm
pen. Yeah.
ready. I know. And so I've had the E95S on my wish list for a while, but it's one of those pens where it's easy to sort of overlook because it's not
Mhm.
flashy. It's not, bright like a Pixie.
Mm.
But it is so reliable. It's such like a good, classy fountain pen and a pocket pen too at that. So
Mhm.
I love it. I love the friction sort of cap to it. It's very like it doesn't just fall off, but it has enough of a click when you close it. That's like just that satisfying sound. So
And it's still a bit of like, correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't looked at the prices, and I know they've increased their prices, but I think it's still one of those entry levels to a gold nib, right?
yeah, for a gold nib from Pilot, right? Like one of the world standards sort of for gold nibs and for nibs in general. Pilot nibs are amazing. It's like, yeah, it's very, I would say affordable, even though, like with prices raised, you kind of have to think about your budget, obviously, and like
Mm-hmm.
what you're going to invest in. But I think it's worth it. And so far, my writing experience with it is amazing. Like it doesn't disappoint. It's a really, really good Pilot pen. So
So here's a question, because we've been talking about it, I think, with a couple of people, and it's like it's always a theory, and it's always interesting to hear other people's thoughts. But how do you feel about taking expensive pens with you when you travel? So this could be like a good option when you'd be sad if anything happened to it, but you could repurchase, right?
yeah,
How would you
yeah.
take like I would you take this pen with you?
I mean, I probably wouldn't. For me, like I don't know if I would travel with this, but if I need it, if I thought that I would need it while I was traveling, I wouldn't feel worried taking this with me. I feel differently about taking vintage pens with me just because, like we talked about before, filling systems, having leakage, accidental leaks, anything could happen.
Yeah.
So with vintage pens, I get a little bit more nervous. And even with like higher price points, I think I would probably personally, I travel with like one or two. And so I'm kind of conscious and aware that I have them with me. And so I can always sort of double check and, feel good about knowing where they are. And then the rest are kind of like if I'm going to a pen show or something, it'll be something that I want people to try out. Or if someone has asked to try a certain pen, then I'll bring it with me. But if I'm just going to bring some of my pens, I kind of keep it to like one or two of the higher end ones or like gold nibs or whatever. And then the rest are ones that I know I'm comfortable traveling with, and I'll use them. Hi, Wendy Sue.
Hello, hi friend.
Hello.
So she's not watching the Pope stuff. That's good.
Or she's already looked into it and she's like, okay,
Yeah,
great.
I have no idea if we know yet who that person is, but people might be watching for it.
Let us know.
Yep. So, but we're just
Yeah.
here chatting things. So thank you for
Yeah.
joining.
Talking about pens. If you had a recent acquisition, let us know. So
Yeah.
the other reason why I was looking into pocket pens, and maybe I'll ask you, if you
Sure.
draw with fountain pens or pocket pens, what is your sort of go-to fountain pen to use for anything aside from just writing. So for me, a good pocket pen is the
Mhm.
Kaweco, because I don't treat it like a precious pen, if that makes sense. Like it's just
Mhm.
so like I don't have a problem with just like pulling it out, doing a little bit of drawing, sketching, whatever, and then putting it into one of my pouches. So I'm curious if you have one of those.
Ooh, look at that, Wendy. Well, do tell us if you can, if it's not a secret.
The
I'm
last
looking if I
pen I
have
ever
it.
made. And so that's something we say all the time, but I'm curious to know what that pen is.
Yeah, I was like hoping I had my pocket pens here, but no, I only have the Esterbrookes here, which I actually
Also,
don't hesitate to take with me. So that's
yeah,
good.
yeah, same. I feel like the SC is like such a great in between writing, drawing, just comfortable to hold type of pen. So
Yeah, did you see the new one they just I think released
yes,
or about to release? Yeah.
the Avalanche.
It
It
felt
is
a
so
little
pretty.
wintry for my taste,
I love
but
it.
it's pretty.
Yeah, it is so pretty. I love the color palette, the gradient with a little bit of teal in it. Oh, it's so pretty.
No.
And it's diamond cast too.
It is. All right. So 200. Yeah, I have those too.
Hmm.
I don't know if they are my drawing choice. Like, that's the thing. When I have something like that, there are two functions. And, when I talk about it, it's like there is a different function that your pen needs to be able to perform when you are drawing, right? I'm not I'm not inventing that. It just
Yes.
feels different. You need to be able to, for me personally, I would love to also be able to reverse write or sketch with it
Hmm.
for the, line variation.
Hmm.
That would be amazing. So that also comes into that for me. Recently I've been testing a couple of pocket pens
Hmm.
and in hopes to maybe someday make a video or something. But I'm into handmade pens. And the two pens that I've had recently was I don't have it, but Black Robin. Everyone knows Black Robin. I'm like really into her. So she made
Yeah.
this. This is her standard pen, but she made it into a low pen. So it's the same nib,
Hmm.
and her nibs are very well tuned.
Hmm.
So I think it's about this long. It's the same shape, but just like this bulb basically comes up closer. It's still the same grip, so it's pretty comfy.
Hmm.
And you kind of like post it on here.
Oh,
So it extends. It's like a nice length.
yeah.
Right. So that's one I'm testing. And the
Yep.
other one is a dropper. And
Mm,
that's the Mayfair pens. The only
yeah.
Mayfair pens I have is his like little one.
Yeah.
And I am very pleased with it. Just the grip is pretty nice for me. I
Mm.
guess it's not for everyone. It's pretty nice for me. But I think the most interesting thing for me is I did not realize how great eyedropper is for sketching for some reason. It's just that ink never ends.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I think there's something classic about it to me as well. The eyedropper's been around for such a long time, and I've been enjoying that pen.
Yeah.
Art.
And the other thing with eyedroppers I find is you can see the ink level and you can see how much is left in there. And instead of using, like if you're just going to put it into your bag and go somewhere and sketch, or you're going to sort of do a long sketch session, the last thing you want to do is run out of ink in the middle of something, right?
Yeah.
It's like super frustrating. So when you're eyedropping, you can see you have enough ink.
Yeah. Hi, Deco.
Hello.
And you're into art too, so we're very happy to have you.
Welcome in. So Wendy Sue said, I was gonna
Yeah,
say,
there she is.
"Ooh."
Oh, I know what she means. Yes. Yes. Is that the hand turn body? I think so. Someone was showing them off. I don't remember. Mystic pens? and she'll tell us.
Yeah.
She'll definitely tell us. But I have it like in my head. I know exactly what
Was
she's
it
talking
pen?
about.
Was it Pens by Pasquale? Because I think I don't. Yeah, I did see something recently about that. I was like, that's so pretty.
Oh, there we go. We have some sketching. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am a huge fan of mediums, especially if it's a smaller nib. So if it's a number 5 medium, I think it's just like that perfect, smaller medium.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Wendy. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
By Pascal. I
I got
was
it
not
right.
close, but handmade.
Yeah, I saw a post about that and it looked so pretty. So I can
I think
I can
that's
see.
just so brilliant too. I've seen someone else. Do you know the store? They restore their own pens. What is it called? Peyton Street Pens.
Mhm.
They restore, resell most of the time, and then they have commissions they made from, I think, Indian manufacturers or something like that. They have really pretty pens. And then one of the commissions, and I love what they do, they just like, in their process of acquisition of things, of pen things, they sometimes acquire older nibs. And so there are Cartier nibs that they just like started doing that with the Indian company when they were like asked them to build a body for them, or like
Wow.
Pelican nibs. And I think one of the M800 nibs was like a really great price with that pen body. It was like cheaper than if you would buy hundreds, cheaper than if you buy the actual Pelican. But I mean, you
Wow.
still have, that nib. And I think that's just such a brilliant idea, especially I feel like maybe now, when it's like the prices are going up.
Yeah. This is like kind of how we talked about before about like, preserving history and preserving something that means something, it's vintage or, it's antique, but modernizing a little bit. And this is like a perfect example of how you can combine, the history and the vintage with a little bit of a modern design, a little bit of a modern take, and sort of keep those both working together. And I love that. I love, especially when it's like so pretty and so beautiful. It's like you're almost like honoring it in a way,
Mm.
right? By just like elevating a little bit more with, yeah, just like genius design.
No, I'm sure there's like, there's going to be a place that sells them and like, what do I do with this, right? And then someone else like Pence by Pascal can just be like, hey, I'm going to engineer a body for this nib. And that's so cool. And
Yeah.
also that's why Estes, like, I think they came up with a really cool idea with that converter bit for the older nibs, right?
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah. Very, very cool. So you can keep using, if you're into vintage pens or vintage nibs, you can keep using them and you can find them and yeah, and use them with, a little bit of a modern system.
And going back to sketching conversation, there are so many, not only Esterbrook, but there are other companies, but specifically Esterbrook, the old nibs that they had for so many different purposes, like array of purposes. They had sketching ones as well. And I think, forgive me, I don't remember, but the guy who was the creator of Peanut, the comic, you know, strip and like the whole empire that
Yeah.
revolves around it, that I think Esterbrook is gonna have something to do with that in the future, because I know there are people who are big fans. But Esterbrook had this nib that he loved so much that when the Esterbrook was going out of business, he bought all of it. Like he bought all of their stock of that one so he can make his comic strip with them. So it's like a lot of fun. Like just
Yeah, that's so
out there.
cool. Yeah, I'm glad they're I saw a little bit of the collaboration when I was at the California Pen Show, and it's a big deal. Like it's a, it's like a worldwide event that's going to happen with this collaboration, right? Like bringing together um a comic series that everyone has been touched by in some way. Like, we all know about Peanuts, and we've been, open to it or following it in some way along our, sort of like for me, it's like a childhood thing, right?
Mm.
So when I see Peanuts, for me, it's like Snoopy. It
Mm.
brings back childhood memories, and so when you're combining that with Esterbrook and the history of those two brands coming together,
No,
it's kind of really
Wendy's
cool.
correcting me. Good. Yes.
Yes, Charles Schultz, of course. Like,
Yeah.
the Peanuts guy.
I know, like, I did not grow up in the US, and like even I know about, like, I don't unfortunately remember Charles Schultz's name, but even like I've like visually I know what's been talked about. So and it obviously will mean so much to you and to my husband who's been born and bred here as well. Like there is so much you learn as a kid just watching that, because like we were just rewatching some of the old ones, old cartoons, and like it's very sweet. And
Yeah.
yeah, I just like love that, going back to that sketching and fountain pens, there's like so much you can use your fountain pens for. And that was my conversation with a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago, who is also an artist. And there is, once you start discovering that world, it is like one pen with many different grinds, like many, like it can transform that one nib into so many different things that rollerball will not be for you. So
Yeah, and I didn't want to scare her by being in the chat like, "Hey, have you tried reverse grinds and all?" Right? But like, especially if you're into writing and drawing, and
right.
you want to use your fountain pen for more than one purpose, if you open up the world of custom grinds and reverse grinds and all these
Mhm.
different, and stacked nibs, like all these different ways of adding to your fountain pen, so that if you have a favorite fountain pen or you like a certain nib, there you go.
Hmm. Aw.
The little puffs everywhere. I
Yeah.
know.
Aw. No, we should have
Yeah.
her on next time. So I told her, I told her that she's gonna use pens for a while, like for a little while, and then we'll have her on with you,
Yeah. So
and she
what do
can
you
ask questions.
think?
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's just something beautiful when you're like, you're able to show that world to someone who has not experienced but is open to experience it. So.
Yeah, yeah. And and you sort of get a feel for how open are you to this? Like, are we talking about just like a platinum preppy kakuno, or are we thinking, a little bit, are we going to go down this rabbit hole? Because
Listen, she had that Kaveco, so it was not, the very very beginning. It was like a
yeah,
decent beginning.
yeah. As soon as someone says like they've tried a Kaveco or a Lamy or, any one of those, and you're kind of like, oh, okay, here
Mhm.
we go. Can build on this.
Yeah, that's so funny. But in the news that I was like, for especially our American friends and me, who likes the Rhodia paper, or the urban, the inks. I think Rhodia paper is the one that is kind of, for a lot of people, stuff's gonna go up in price by 30%. Starting, I think, the 1st of June, if I'm not mistaken. The distributor of both of the brands, unfortunately, has to raise the prices by 30%. So
Yikes.
it is what it is,
That
you
is what it is.
guys. You gotta buy all the paper. Smells like Rhodia, right? By 30%. I'm like,
Wow.
that is a lot.
Yeah. And Rhodia is one of those like papers that if you're going to start out with something that's easily accessible, that's the one, right? Like you
Mm-hmm.
can find that in most stores, if not
Mm-hmm.
all sort of craft stationery supply stores. So if that's going to be expensive, then you're just like everything on top of that, that's more, fine paper kind of
Yeah.
yeah, you're talking about really expensive paper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Fortunately, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So just a little bit of news if you want to stock up on that one. I believe that was the 1st of June. I'm gonna double check, but I think it was the 1st of June. That's when they're gonna start raising the price, which will be across the board. Um, so get them inks, get them papers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the good though news is that you can always buy secondhand. I think we'll see a lot of fun stuff secondhand coming up on the market, and innovations like we talked before, right, with the nibs. I'm
Yeah.
excited about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's just time to use what you have, enjoy what you have. I've been like really discovering some stuff, because there's like always there are pens that you found them to be difficult or not interesting at some point, right, in your collection, and it's been a while and you haven't touched them, and you're like, huh, I see this different now, or I can go and make a grind on this pen, and like that's how I feel, at least.
Yeah. I have pens like that too, where I got them probably early on in my fountain pen journey, where I was sort of like trying out different nibs, different pens. And now that I've sort of evolved to, I know which type of pens I like, I know what type of nibs I'm drawn to and will use more often, I can go back to some of those earlier pens and yeah, get them custom ground, or if you need to move on, rehome them. And I'm sure someone out there will want to, expand their collection. So it's always that's what I love about this community, is that there's always someone out there who wants that or who wants to give it a good home. They'll use it. And so if you're not going to customize it for yourself, take a look at giving it to someone else.
Yeah. All right. So 1st of July is when the price is gonna increase. So up until now, guys, or up until then, you can get all of it.
Get all of it.
Yeah, and they just send it to you too.
Yeah.
So exciting pens, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I really can't recommend the. Sorry, I was sick last week, so I'm still coming back from my voice, coming back from it. But yes, Montblanc Red Grand, and if I may give a suggestion, if you can find an older one, which is like 80s, 70s, it's one of the ones I have, and I find it to be just a very different experience. It has the ebonite feed. It usually has the monotone nib. So that's like one of the dead giveaways. Ebonite feed and like just gold. Not like two different tones of gold, but
Mhm.
like just one yellow gold nib. So if you see that, those are usually go for cheaper than a modern Legrand. I love it. So I have mine in fine, and it's a juicier line, and I think also for sketching it's pretty fun. Homo sapiens I can only agree on. I did not like it for a long time. It's just not quite the looks that I like. But then I tried one, and I agree. I would get one. So yeah. What you think? You have any of those?
I do not. Mont Blanc is on my list, of course. I will probably at some point in my life own one. But yeah, I'm kind of the same about Visconti. The look of it I'm not sure if I'm drawn to it. But that being said, I'm also one of those people that if that's the case, I would love to try one in person,
Mm.
hold it, touch it, and then I might change my mind. Because I have heard good things about it. So I'm not going to say no to a pen just because looks wise, I may not be right away being like, I need it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, some good tips on how to buy a vintage Mont Blanc. Do your research. Is all I
for
can
sure.
tell.
Yeah, those are good tips for sure.
So yeah, that's what it is. No, Visconti, that's the thing for me. I like if you look at how their pens used to look 20 years ago, that's much more of my look
Mhm.
than they do now. Which I understand visually. It's like I understand where they're going, but it's just like not my direction personally. But that doesn't mean that, with all of their QC problems, that their nibs are the way they're supposed to be if you can get one that way.
Mhm.
I think that's a great nib. So I think that's true. So,
Yeah.
and again, I feel like it's a grail. Homo sapiens is a grail for so many people. I
Yeah.
think it is a good investment from that also standpoint, right?
Yeah.
If you need to, for some reason, part ways with it,
Yeah.
you can.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, that's fun. Look at that. Yes. Yes, you can.
Nice.
Estate sales too.
Oh,
It's like
yeah.
a whole way of looking, and we can have a separate show for that purpose.
How to
Yeah.
find those pens. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. Palladium nibs. Yes, that's what they no longer, I think, produce, but you can still find them secondary market from time to time, and probably new old stock. Yeah. So you guys, I do not own any Viscontis. Just their eggs for now. So
Yeah. Who
yeah,
knows? Who
who
knows?
knows? Who knows? Yeah, I had like a couple of interesting ones pop up. I was looking at the carousel. They had very cute ones. I think Versailles or something like that themed. They were like pretty, like really kind of pale pink, millennial pink, and the blue and the green and the red. I think that was like their collection. And I think at some point, it's either it was not very popular, but it was like super discounted in a lot of places. So
Mhm.
I kind of gave that a bit of a thought. And the difference there was that they came up with the rod. The rod was not like metal, it was acrylic, I think.
Oh, okay.
And I think might have been the reason why some people were not attracted to that prospect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's our hi friends. There's so many people now. I'm like, I just looked at it. We have more than 3 people.
Oh, hello.
We even had like 7 people or 8 people at some point. So
Nice.
everyone's flocking.
I'm sure people will watch replays too. It's sort of when you do these lives during the day, it's tough to join in person, but I'm sure
Mm,
people will watch the replay.
yeah, there you go. No, Wendy, that's how like that's where my head goes. It's like I have to think about this.
Yeah.
But if I'm sure that I can, interest someone else in case it's not my pen. It's
Yeah.
here's a question for everyone. Has there been a pen that you got, maybe not even very intentionally, say someone gifted it to you, or you reluctantly bought it, or you were like, I'm not sure I'm gonna like it, but for some reason you got it, and then you were surprised because you really, really liked it? Has there been a pen for you, Carola, that's
Hmm.
been a surprise? It's something that you're like, oh, this is much better than I expected. And I'm keeping it.
um, oh, you know what? I do have one. The Benu Euphoria.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So I got a Benu Euphoria a few years ago. And it was around the time where, all of their pens were like, super happy, cheery, fun, really out there. And so it's not everyone's pen, right? The designs can sometimes be like, you either like it or you're kind of like, whoa, it's a lot. And so I was kind of in the camp of like, it might be a little too much for me. But I found a collaboration pen with Cult Pens and Benu that is a little bit more subdued. So it's a little bit more my style. It still had glitter and everything. But so I got it and I was like, you know what? I don't know how I feel about this pen. I'll give it a try. I fell in love because of how it gives such a nice writing experience. And somehow Benu has figured out like, crazy designs, fun, and um, the pen itself is, a great designed pen. But then functionality wise, I was surprised at how balanced it is and how like it looked really big but it didn't feel really big, like it felt like something I could control. And so all those reasons, all those different things about it, I was like, you know what, this is actually a great pen. And so yeah, now I'm like, I I love the Euphoria, it's great. So that's my
Good
pen.
to know. I should. I still don't have a Benu, and actually for the same reason.
Yeah, so
I've only had maybe three of their designs I've ever liked. Um,
so this is the one that
uh,
I got, right? Like it
right.
is very sparkly, very fun, and so I was like, of all the Benus, I feel like this is a little bit more subdued. It's a little bit more my taste. And yeah, so I ended up, after I got this, I was like, I love Benus. I think Euphoria is a great model. And so when the Pen Addict released a collaboration 15-year anniversary pen with Benu, I was like, yeah, I'm going to get it because
Yeah.
like, it has these sort of pretty orange sparkles in it, right? And it's like a
Mhm.
dark purple and black. And yeah, it's one of those pens that surprised me and in a good way.
Aw, yeah.
Yeah.
And oh, there you go, Wendy.
And you love them. Yeah.
Wendy, you missed out on Carola showing off hers.
Yeah, I think Wendy Sue might have been in the Twitch stream when I unboxed this, and then we talked about the trio. And you know what? This too, right? Like it's so bright and just like out there with like the glitter and all these things that normally I probably would have looked at it and been like, well, it's like really like it's extra. And I don't know if I would have naturally been drawn to it. But just because I know Benus are great pens and I really wanted the Pixie. Yeah, I knew it.
I think they were finally very smart, if I can say so, with this release, in terms of really kind of hitting all the aspects of like different tastes that might occur and still kind of being themselves, right? And I did like how many like they were like plainer more uniform looking pens that they had here, and also much more out there pens for those who enjoy that. And
Yeah,
I think that's great, and I love seeing that more in their stuff. I like the Paris one that they had, the two Paris ones that they released. And the pink one might not have been pink purple one. It's cute, might not be for me. But they also had the other one that was like, I think dark, either black or dark blue. That was very classy, I thought. And that's the one I'd get.
yeah.
wood, but still like with Paris Eiffel Tower, Paris sites painted on it, which is very nice.
Yeah, the hand painted pens are like so artistic, right? Like, wow, amazing. Blow me away. I was going to call this out, Wendy Sue, because Marina and I talked a little bit about the pen, and I was like, listen, the only little thing that I would call out about this pen is that when you post it, like when I'm writing with it, I actually sort of bump it a little bit and then it sort of shimmies it off, and I have to constantly sort of push it down. So this makes me really happy that they've, sort of mastered it a little bit, that it wouldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was my only little sticky point where I was using it and I was like, this is such a good pen for what it is, for how small it is, and for being a pocket pen. If only it would post perfectly. And yeah, so.
So I imagine it takes cartridges, right? And the little converter, the Kaweco one.
Yeah. And I think you can eyedropper it as well. I think someone has done it or mentioned that you could do it. So I have a cartridge in it that I'll just refill. I might try eyedropping it as well, but yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Wendy, I was just talking about one of the ones I'm testing, which is Black Robin pens. Her little one, I really like it. I like how it's like one of her newest designs. And she's obviously still working things out. It's very good. And like in terms of posting, she definitely has figured it out really, really well, which is like amazing to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I
To
just
Wendy Sue's comment, I kind of, when I was playing around with a pen, I kind of did that as well, because I was like, I don't want to say that it's not going to post correctly if there is a way to sort of do that. And I did find that, yes, so you're right. If you sort of twist it a little bit, there is a spot, I think, where it catches enough that I didn't find it sort of shimmying. But I don't know what that spot is. So I have to kind of play around with it and feel a little bit more comfortable about using it. But I'm just really happy when, like this is a first, right? This is a first. Like we said, it's so much smaller than a
Mhm.
Kaweco. It's so much smaller than other pocket pens that I have. So for them to come out with this and come out strong,
Mhm.
I'm impressed. I am impressed. And so if they have figured out the posting part of it, then, you know,
So I have a question for the Pilot Parallel nib. Is there, because I think this one is a smaller, right? Number 5 nib, Schmidt nib in
yeah,
the. Mhm. So this is kind of compatible. Okay, gotcha.
yeah.
So what else do we have? Oh, yes, it's so cute.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I have the regular size, and I was so excited that she came out with that. Cause like I'm a huge fan of hand turned, and especially now when a lot of them started making those low pens. I'm very excited about that because I'm into it.
Yeah, I met Michaela at the California Pen Show, and I was like, now I need a White Bear Pens pen. And now, now that there's the cutie little pen, I don't know which one to get. So yeah, they're
Oh
very,
yeah,
very cute.
cool, awesome, yeah, nice.
Good to
Yeah, I
know.
love that. That's something another thing I'm really looking forward to playing a little bit more with, like placing different nibs and different pens. I think Galen from Fountain Pen Pendulum does that a lot. Which is like she's brave.
Play around with it a little bit.
Especially she puts it in like very fancy, like, pen. It's just like it's so fascinating to me because she loves that one barrel a lot. Stipula pen
Okay.
that is quite expensive these days because it's just beautiful, beautiful celluloid that they used for that pen. And she just like keeps on like popping in different nibs on that one body, which I love. But I'm also like, I wish I was that brave because when it comes to like, coming back to the expensive pen, talk, like that's when I'm a little bit hesitant. Like I'm like,
Nervous. Yeah.
I'll ask someone who's done that to do that for me. Oh yeah, we just talked about that, William. The avalanche
Yeah.
is
I
out.
know, it's so pretty.
There we
So
go.
pretty with the diamond cast too.
There you go, Wendy. You have to you have to show me more and give me send some good vibes. And yes, I do watch your stuff. You're pretty awesome.
I think you just need that like confidence boost. Like
You know,
you
look
can
at
do
that
this
fancy.
too. Just do it.
Yep, she's a fancy lady. Franklin Christoph with a 21K serenade.
Ooh, that
Yeah.
is fancy.
Yeah, no, that's my hashtag life goals there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I usually kind of enjoy nibs and the pens that they come in. So you too?
Yeah, I feel like I've only sort of gotten over or like gotten into custom grinds because I'm like, you know what, if I don't, I can sort of interchange nibs if they're interchangeable. They're easily interchangeable, and I can custom grind them if I'm not super happy with them. So to really, you know, take parts and move them around, I feel like I'm working towards it. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's sometimes you need a little bit more encouragement. I was like, I think I'm definitely able to. My dad's an engineer, so he's a whiz in everything like that. And I grew up watching,
yeah.
him and people like him. So it's like I can get there,
Yeah.
but it's I think I'll need to kind of watch people do that a little bit more and like get to that point.
Yeah, and I feel too that people like Wendy Sue and Galen and others who are willing to do the first step of taking things apart and tinkering with them, and then sort of letting us know, like, yes, you can do it, or don't do it. It's not worth the
Mhm.
hassle, or it's not worth. I almost feel like we need these people in our community, sort of pushing us, encouraging us to be like,
Mhm.
yes, you bought this as a package. It comes with a nib, it comes with this, it comes with that, but you should be able to feel comfortable playing around with that a little bit,
Mhm.
knowing the pieces that go into a fountain pen, and being able to play around with interchanging pieces where you can. And I almost feel like sometimes where I interchange nibs in pens that you can interchange them in, I feel like other
Mhm.
people can get nervous about that, even where they're like, you're taking a nib out of a pen, right? And it's like, but you can. That's certain pens are made for that. And even if pens are not made for that, are there ways of doing it safely? Are there ways of doing it where you're not, breaking your pen or taking away from what that pen was meant to be?
Mhm.
And we need more people like that, and we need people
Yeah.
who are sort of pushing um, that area where it's like we can play around with our pens in certain ways and get more enjoyment out of it,
Mhm.
and take away some of that nervousness and the feeling of like, I should not be taking this pen apart. Like, take away that sort of barrier, and then all of a sudden, yes, you can play around with different brands and different types of nibs and pens and have fun with it.
Yeah, and I think again, going back to Esterbrook again, none of us is sponsored by them, but we we keep on talking about them. It's also because they encourage that, and I think I like that. You can buy their nibs separately, and you can install them, and there are like a lot of tutorials out there, and it's pretty easy, to start just with their pens.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
it's out there. There's like starting points, but it is like a psychological kind of like hurdle in a way, like a hump that you get over.
Yeah. And I feel that like that about maker pens too, where
Hmm.
they make the body so that you can interchange a nib and you can feel
Right.
comfortable doing it, right? And so nowadays, if you're buying a maker pen from an independent maker, you can get them without a nib, because if
Mhm.
you're like me and you have like all sorts of different custom ground nibs that are interchangeable with other pens, it's like I don't need a stock, broad or a stock medium when I have already these beautifully ground, architects and cursive italics and stuff. And so I'd love to own more pen bodies where I can put in my preferred nibs. And yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with Lamy
Yeah.
point here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's just how it's supposed to be. And also kind of like gives you that comfort level where you're like, okay, I am learning this, I'm comfortable doing this. And then, if you're not comfortable, like to push it further, you can just stay at that level for a while.
Mhm.
That's a good point.
Yeah, for sure. And it sort of goes back to what we are talking about too, is like if you're using a fountain pen for more than just writing, right? We're always going to look for something else from that
Hmm.
tool. And whether you sketch or you do hand lettering or whatever it is, it's like if I can get a fountain pen where I can put in a nib if I want to, if I feel like I want to sketch with it or draw with it, or hand letter with it, what does that pen body have to be able to do, and what nibs do I need that I can sort of interchange into them? And I think the trend is sort of going in the area where instead of buying everything new and at a higher price, what are some things we already have that we can, reuse or put into different bodies to get more out of them?
All right, good
Cool.
to know. I still don't have any of their gold nibs, and I was
Yeah.
wondering about that.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah. Yeah, I keep on. So there's a thing, and I know I haven't asked you, but I know there's a bit of a different opinion as far as Lamy 2000 goes. Have you tried it? What do you think if you have?
I have tried it, and it wrote beautifully. So I tried it at a pen show. Someone had it, and I thought like this. It's kind of like going back to the Homo sapiens, where I am not drawn to the look of the Lamy 2K. I'm
Mhm.
just not drawn to it. It just looks like a pen that I can overlook and get something else that's flashier
Mhm.
or fun or whatever. But when I wrote with it, I thought, okay, this is an amazing pen. No wonder people love it. But again, I don't know if it needs to be in my collection
Mhm.
for me to appreciate what it is. Like I think it's a great pen. It writes beautifully, but they're surprisingly bouncy. Yes, the one that I wrote was really juicy. So that's why I loved it, because I was like, I love juicy pens. What's going on here? But I don't know if I'll own one because, for the price, there
Mhm.
are other pens that maybe I might be more drawn to.
Mhm. Yeah, I've been, I like those limited releases from, here and there. They had the brown, I think, what, a couple years ago. That was cute. And now they have the green that is currently slightly discounted, I think, on Atlas, which is fun.
Mm,
And their limited releases come with like a bunch of things as well, usually, like very nice quality notebooks and stuff like that. So maybe, one day. But I was wondering because I've heard, so many different opinions about like how does it actually feel? Um because I do agree, not everyone might like the 60s, 70s, Bauhaus style that they're going for.
yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is, and maybe, yeah, I might pull the trigger one day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I feel like with Lamy, they're mostly very reliable pens. That's just how some people might not like it. Dust.
Psychedelic bong.
You know, that's how I feel about some resins that Visconti has. They got a lot of psychedelic stuff.
That's like it's like an equivalent of liking, like unicorn poop or something, It's like like crazy kind of
Oh
all kinds of
goodness.
colors.
And I feel like that's the fun part of like choosing your pen too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I mean, I see that actually working for great line work potentially.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, I feel another thing going back to the resin choices. That's another thing. Like, there are specific Homo sapiens, going away from what we're talking about, but not really. I do not find the style of the clip my favorite thing. But if I overlook that and I look at the pen itself and I look for something that maybe is a little bit more fun
Yeah.
color wise, I would want to look at it in person.
If you squint at it
Yeah.
and don't really look at it, you just get the colors.
I know people who just buy, this pen online and they receive it and they're like, oh.
Yeah. See, have you ever done that? Like I've never done that yet, where I've purchased something where I was like, ugh, looked at it and there have been pens where I was like, I'm not sure about this, I don't know what it's going to look like in person. And always in person, I'm like, you know what? It's actually nice. But yeah, I'm curious to know if anyone has done that and like, what do you do?
Esterbrook Sweet Dreams. This is the one pen that I don't want to say don't know how to get rid of, but it's discounted, And one of the reasons is the peculiarity of that resin is that you should see it in person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just how it is. Not the Lamy 2000.
Yeah. So I mean, the one that I used was juicy, but I forget what the nib was, and I don't know if it was custom ground or not. But yeah,
gotcha. Thank you for that. Yeah, no, I mean, you can definitely just buy the nib itself and just put it in your Safari.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now the resins is like, I don't know if anyone in the chat was at the Chicago, but like that's why, it's exciting, I would imagine, to go to the pen shows, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And speaking of like pens where you buy not knowing what they look like in person, like Esterbrook does that, right? Or even just any pen that has a pour where it's based on the pen. Like they will vary. And so sometimes if you're buying online or without seeing it in person, or you can't pick out which exact pen you want, you're kind of stuck with that specific pour. And so if you see it in person and you don't like it, maybe there are ways of returning it and exchanging it for something else. But yeah, it's a risk.
Yeah, selling it. Yeah, the selling is like a whole different game in general. It's like getting confidence and like stuff like that to sell it. That's another thing.
Yeah, it's an effort, right? Like it's an effort. It's harder to sell something than to buy something. Where it's like you're just like, oh, I'll buy this, and then what ends up happening is if you don't get around to selling it, it just sits around in your collection, and so that's why revisiting your collection. It's like maybe you'll like it later. Maybe when you get over the initial anticipation of what it looks like, and you're kind of disappointed, maybe. But maybe later on, you revisit and you're no longer in that like excited phase and you look at it and it could be something that you like, or, you could push yourself to get it sold.
Yeah, very good point. All right, you guys, we're going to be here for another 5 to 10 minutes. So if anyone has any questions or fun things they want to discuss, drop them in the chat. and we'll be happy to respond.
Yeah. Well, speaking about uh, pens that are great for drawing and that you could sort of carry around in your pouch and just pull them out and draw. Like for me, that's kind of the Kaweco. I have other pens, like Lamy Safari is also a great one, right? Where you're not like too precious with it, or a Platinum Preppy, the
Mm,
Kakuno. It's not super overpriced where, or like super priced where you need to sort of feel like you have to be precious with it. And I feel like the Kaweco is kind of one of those pens for me where I don't feel like I need to treat it like a little baby.
mm.
Right. But yeah, so I kind of like carrying this around, having it here. But I did a little drawing while we were talking.
Yay!
It's of these daisies that I have sitting in my desk.
A daisy study. I love that.
A daisy study. So I encourage you to do that with your fountain pen if you
Yes.
have a pocket fountain pen, or if you have one that, you know, sits around on your desk and you're kind of looking for something to do that doesn't require journaling or writing or, you know, focusing on something. Definitely try drawing with it or sketching with it.
And so here's another question. When it comes to the material, are you particular, like what materials you would prefer your pens in general be, but specifically pocket pens? And I'm just asking, you know, they're brass Kavecos. They're very kind of nice and heavy, right?
Yeah.
Would you go for that over, you know, their regular plastic solution?
Yes and no. Like I think longevity wise, like if I find a pen that I know I'm going to be using a lot, that's when I go with like this is the AL Sport, right? So metal body over an acrylic body. But at the same time, I almost feel like something like a Pixie, or you know, that you can sort of throw into a pouch or carry with you. Like this will go in my pocket. That's how small it is. Right. And I know I'm not going to carry it around all the time. I'm not going to carry it around for years. But having a pen that I know is reliable enough that I can have it for years. For me personally, it's a metal body. And
Yeah.
I like the weight of it too sometimes, especially with a pocket fountain pen, is that the weight
Yeah.
of it, it feels sturdy to me.
Hmm.
And when I'm drawing, I try to sort of keep it light. I try not to grip my pen too hard because I do want sort of the sketchy lines. And I feel like a metal body is heavy enough that I don't need to feel, you know, the grip.
Hmm.
And so I just let it sort of sit on my hand and I can draw with it.
Yeah. What I've noticed, brass, I'm fine with, but when it comes with metal, again, revisiting several of my pens that I have, I like the metal, but I don't like the grip section to be metal.
Mm.
Brass, I'm fine with. Regular metal, aluminum.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know what you mean. I think that's why I'm not a big fan of using them for writing.
Hmm.
I think and that's why I'm kind of curious to play around with the Tom Studio
Hmm.
pocket fountain pen, because normally I don't think I would have been drawn to this fountain pen as a writer. But I am curious to use it for like artistic sort of drawing, hand lettering kind of things, where it's not just like I'm writing in a journal or I'm writing my thoughts down or in a planner. And so I think that's my distinction, where like if I don't feel it super comfortable to grip because it's, you know, a metal body or something, then I do draw with it because I'm not sitting there drawing for hours. I'm carrying it around, I'm doing a quick sketch of something, and then I move on.
Hmm.
And yeah, so it kind of works for me in that way.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, it's I mean, it's not a deal breaker. That's the thing. But there are certain preferences. What I've noticed is also during a hot day. Yeah, it's on a hot
Mm,
day. If you sketch, even if it's not for a long time, and even if you're right, and you know, I'm out, it's a little hot, but I'm still like outside in the shadow, whatever. Like it gets a little messy, you know,
yeah,
the sweat and whatnot.
yeah.
like don't like dealing with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a certain stuff that it's just like the same with ebonite, you know. I love ebonite personally, but I understand people who don't, you know, who like unscrew the barrels, lift, you know, the inside of the pen, and they're like, no, this is rubber.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes there's also like someone claimed to me that they can smell the rubber, the ebonite rubber smell on their fingers after using pens, their ebonite, which is very interesting. I've never experienced that. And I'm pretty sensitive to smells.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. But we all have our things, right? Like I feel like we all have that like little things. We're kind of like, it's like for me, I don't post pens, but for pocket pens, I do because they're obviously very short. So, you know, for me, I need to post pocket pens. And so my little thing is if it can't be posted as a pocket pen, what are we doing?
Yep.
Right? So it's just the little things.
Yeah, no, that's how I feel too. There is that comfort level. The small, you know, nice little entries in your journal, in my journal, I don't really care about. And if it's at home, I don't care that much about stuff. But if I do it in a cafe shop outside my house on a trip, that's when I feel like I become a little bit more finicky, just because the comfort level, I think, naturally changes when you're in public or out of your house, right? And then that kind of adds up to you wanting to be extra comfy. That
Yeah.
goes beyond the nib. It's everything. It's the whole package.
Yeah.
Aww. Yeah. It's the Wendy and Deku talking about things. There was a fun comment on Steven's review. Yeah, Divina is very interesting. Especially they had these non-glossy, like kind of mate, like Bordeaux, but like this pretty kind of Bordeaux that looked matted type of finish to it. Those are really fun, interesting pens that they had for a while. I agree. These are interesting ones, but yeah. No, because Stephen had that honey, I think, or something like that. One of those opera masters reviewed, and that was like one of his favorite pens. Yeah. I love that people are just talking away.
Yeah. And once you know your nib size, it's like, you know,
Yep.
you kind of know where you want to start with, which is really good. Which is good to see.
Yeah. Yeah. Now the nibs is like you are either really into like very fine side of things. And I've noticed that with journaling people
Yeah.
mostly. I don't know if you have.
Yeah.
Or you are like in the middle. Like, well, I am, I would imagine more. M, if I'm not sure, it's medium.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then stubs.
Yeah. It's kind of funny to see like where in your practice and your journey of using fountain pens that you are in, because for me, I when I first started using fountain pens, I started with extra fine and fine because that's the gel pen size that I was using. I was using, you know, the 0.38 and 0.25 gel pens. And so I kind of equated that to a fountain pen nib. And so I went with fine or extra fine. And then eventually I kind of went into like the medium territory where I was like, okay, I'm gonna I'm gonna go to a little bit of a broader nib. And I tried the medium. And the medium for me is always that balance between a fine line and a broad line, right? Like that's where it is. And so if I'm kind of unsure about where I want to start with something, I always think, okay, it's either a medium or a broad. And for me, a broad is where I am at now, where if I'm going to get a stock nib, it's probably going to be a broad, and then a stub if I know what I'm going to use it for. So if I'm going to use it for, you know, lettering or sketching or whatever, then I know that I can go with a stub or something that's ground. But otherwise, yeah, for me, it's sort of at the point where at, I go with a broad or something that shows off the ink properties, the lines, gives me line variations. But that's not to say, I can't go back to fine, extra fine for specific purposes.
Yeah, it's use case.
Yeah.
There is. It's the same with me in sketching, or like, broads and stubs are extremely great for like filling in your whatever you need,
Mhm.
in your sketch, because it just gives you so much more ink. And it will look slightly different because inks do look different depending on the size of the nib.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah. Wendy.
I feel like we need someone like Wendy Sue, though, to like, give pointers and, keep the chat moving too sometimes. So
Yeah.
you're
Thank you
always
for being
appreciated.
here. Yeah, I love how this kind of unlocked the conversation now on the nibs. Think
Yeah.
we might need to continue that next time.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to let us know what you end up getting.
Yeah, it's just there is so much to discover. Going back to that same conversation with nibs, right? And nib grinds and just everything. Like when you use your pens, you're like, oh. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll be back, hopefully, at some point.
Yeah. I mean, we continue the conversation on other streams, on, throughout the community, which is really, really
Yeah,
good to see.
absolutely. Happy to connect. And
Yeah.
there you go. Yay. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for joining. Thanks for watching the replay if you're part of the replay team.
All right,
Always
you
fun.
guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the chat, Marina. It's always so
Yeah,
fun to talk to you.
thank you. It's great just to find you through this medium and
Yeah.
connect.
Yeah, same.
All right, you guys.
Bye.
Thank you.